Hello and welcome, caring viewers. Everywhere in the world we hear reports about global warming. We know that there are more frequent and more intensive disasters, more glaciers melting, farmers struggling with unpredictable weather patterns, and coastal residents whose homes are being engulfed by rising sea levels. On September the 23rd, 2009, the United Kingdom-based The Guardian published a first-person account of a Ugandan. To him, climate change has lately been a visible, tangible and extremely difficult reality.
UN leaders should know climate change is destroying my village in Uganda, flooding our homes and ruining our crops. It rained and rained until all the land was soaked and our houses were submerged in the water. This forced us to move to higher ground, where we sought refuge. By the time we came back home, all the houses had collapsed, our granaries were destroyed, and food was washed away. As the ground in the village remained flooded, there were a lot of mosquitoes around, and 5 of my family members became ill with malaria. Because there was no clean water to drink, some people got cholera and diarrhea. Many of the people in my village died. Children didn't go to school since they were too weakened by disease, and their parents had no money for school fees. Our farms were ruined, so we didn't have food until the government came to help us. This was so humiliating for us, because we had never depended on aid to survive. This year, when we managed to get seeds to plant for our own food, we were struck by a drought like we had never seen before.
So how do we help? Buying local to minimize the distance that food travels is a welcome solution for many. But will it really suffice to save the planet? In an August 2009 article published by Forbes magazine, James E. McWilliams says it won't help much and is even a big mistake.
Take a close look at water usage, fertilizer types, processing methods and packaging techniques, and you discover that factors other than shipping far outweigh the energy it takes to transport food. Until our food system becomes more transparent, there is one thing you can do to shrink the carbon footprint of your dinner. Take the meat off your plate. No matter how you slice it, it takes more energy to bring meat as opposed to plants to the table. It takes 6 pounds of grain to make a pound of chicken, and 10 to 16 pounds to make a pound of beef. That difference translates into big differences in inputs. It requires 2,400 litres of water to make a burger, and only 13 litres to grow a tomato. A majority of the water in the American West goes toward the production of pigs, chickens and cattle. If you want to make a statement, ride your bike to the farmer's market. If you want to reduce greenhouse gases, become a vegetarian.
To reduce global warming, many people are also resorting to changing the type of vehicle that they drive. But entrepreneur and CEO of First Rain, Penny Hersher, warns that this is not enough. The title of her article, published in the Huffington Post on March 3, 2009, says it all. Your diet has more climate change impact than your car.
I stopped eating red meat 15 months ago now after reading a particularly disturbing book about the abattoir practices in the U.S. Not an unusual decision, but one that I think will become more and more common. The reason this trend will grow isn't that Americans suddenly start caring about eating animals with the intelligence of their young children, but because of the carbon footprint of the meat industry. It'll be because the meat industry produces more carbon emissions than the auto industry. Cows belching, amazing but true. For example, 4 ounces of steamed vegetables have a carbon footprint of 0.18 pounds. 4 ounces of pasta has 0.39 pounds, and 4 ounces of steak has 10.5 pounds. If it's time for you to buy a car, then buy a hybrid. But if you aren't in the market for a new car today, the highest impact change you can make is to stop eating meat, and it's good for you too.
At a time when governments could use as much finances as possible to reverse global warming, the meat industry must be eliminated. Here is an article in Time magazine, America's Food Crisis and How to Fix It, by Brian Walsh.
Somewhere in Iowa, a pig is being raised in a confined pen, packed in so tightly with other swine that their curly tails have been chopped off so they won't bite one another. He is dosed with antibiotics. The waste produced by the pig and his thousands of penmates goes into manure lagoons that blanket neighbouring communities with air pollution and a stomach-churning stench. When the pig is slaughtered, he'll become sausage or bacon that will sell cheap, feeding an American addiction to meat that has contributed to an obesity epidemic currently afflicting more than 2/3 of the population. And when the rains come, the excess fertilizer that coaxed so much corn from the ground will be washed into the Mississippi River and down to the Gulf of Mexico, where it will help kill fish for miles and miles around. US agricultural industry can now produce unlimited quantities of meat and grains at remarkably cheap prices. But it does so at a high cost to the environment, animals and humans. Add to the price tag the acceleration of global warming. Our energy-intensive food system uses 19% of US fossil fuels, more than any other sector of the economy.
Please keep your dial tuned to Supreme Master Television. We'll be right back.